What's going on, guys? Hey, look, in some of my videos, you may have noticed that one of the questions I've always had is, what sort of role is Earth going to play in Starfield? Well, it seems like Earth is actually going to play a major role in the story because you're actually going to travel there. In fact, the solar system itself, Earth's solar system itself, is going to play a role in your investigation and finding out the whole mystery behind the artifact. Now, I've been so busy paying attention to what Todd Howard said that the answers to many of my questions, and some of you may have been, asking the same question to yourself, is really right here in this fantastic video where the guy, Will Shen, he's the lead quest designer. And this is a great interview, and I'm just going to sit back and play it. I haven't listened to all of it, but he says some good stuff in here. He reveals a lot of stuff that I've been wondering about. A couple of things that he said kind of caught my attention. I know one of the things that he was talking about that I found very interesting was what he said about the factions and how you're going to be able to influence the factions. I know I hear a lot of people wondering, what exactly is your relationship or your experience going to be like with these factions? Can you actually be in various factions, and how far can you get in various factions as far as like being promoted and things of that nature? Now, it sounds like what he said to me. We're going to listen to it again here. It sounds like that sometimes you can actually become the leader of a faction. And one of the things that he said is that you can at least, even if you don't become the leader, you can actually influence these factions. You can actually get them to change direction. Like they could have one political view, but you can change their way of thinking. So, but we're going to take a look at it here. Let's go ahead, and sometimes I'm going to stop it just to let you know.
Bethesda, and I'm back at Bethesda.
Let's just start it over from the beginning here.
Hi, I'm Jess Finster, Community Director at Bethesda, and I'm back at Bethesda Game Studios doing another round of Constellation questions. Thank you so much to everybody who submitted your questions on Discord, Reddit, Twitter. We really appreciated reading them all. Today we're talking with Starfield's lead quest designer, Will Shen, on quests. So let's get started.
Can't wait for this game to come out.
Hi, Will.
Hi, Jess.
Do you want to give a brief intro to yourself so they can get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. I'm Will Shen. I'm the lead quest designer on Starfield, and I am also responsible for the main quest.
Well, we got some...
One thing I got to say, I had to stop it. One of the things I did notice, this guy looks like he really loves what he does. I've watched a lot of these interviews. Sometimes the people look kind of uncomfortable because they look like it may be their first time giving interviews. And then sometimes they look very professional. This guy looks like, man, he just looks like a kid that's in a toy factory, man. He looks like he's just happy to be there, and he's just like, sure, just ask me whatever you want. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. But let's go ahead.
One of the top questions from our community that they want to know about Starfield. First question. One of the best things about the previous games were random encounters that you have in the world. For Starfield, how has the random encounter system been improved or expanded upon, if at all?
So very exciting. This time around, we have entire planets that we have to populate. So we actually have new tech to take whole locations that we've built and put them on the planets. Now you could say maybe you're going to an outpost and you actually discover there's a whole group of people there with a particular problem. Whereas, before it might be just a person coming to you along the road. Now it's an actual whole location that can be put there. And maybe they have a problem like one of our members was kidnapped. They've been kidnapped by some pirates. We think they're over there. We actually are replacing a whole other location with that person in it and enemies around it. So it's a dynamically placed settlement that is taking you to a dynamically placed dungeon as you're walking through the planet.
So basically, at any point in time on a planet, you can just experience a random encounter anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're really only just scratching the surface of what that tech can do.
Okay, so what he's describing there kind of reminds me of the old technology that Bethesda used to use to create shrubbery and trees of that nature. You guys know I made a video about that a long time ago called Speed Tree. And it was the technology that they used that randomly generated trees and shrubbery and grass and things of that nature. And that was the way that they made all of the greenery in a lot of their video games. And it was just randomly generated. So it sounds like here, like he's saying that instead of running into a person, I'm sure many of you guys have played any of the Fallout series where you could just be walking down a dirt road or anywhere and you would just encounter a person just out there on the road. Like sometimes it might be like some quick time event, you might want to call it, where a person would just run up to you and just start talking to you while you're out on the road. Well, it sounds like he's saying here that you're not going to run into one person. You may actually run into an entire settlement of people who need help. And it sounds like he's saying, because she said random, so it sounds like these could be randomly generated. So just like Speed Tree, could randomly generate greenery, trees and shrubbery, this new technology that he spoke of can randomly generate these compounds, these camps. It kind of reminds me of the Outer Worlds. If any of you played the Outer Worlds was like that. You didn't run into people like individuals on the road. You ran into groups. You ran into settlements on the road. You ran into the closest thing I could think of that you could run into that wasn't a settlement was an enemy camp. You would never run into a camp where there were people who needed help. Every time you saw a camp, and it would always be more than one person. When you saw a camp, it was always enemies. But other than that, you would not run up. There would be no random one person that would run up to you and ask you for help or ask you to go on some sort of quest. It would always be a settlement that you would run into, a small town, if you will. And when you go into those small towns, sometimes you would run into various quests. Sometimes you'd go into them and it'd just be people that want to kill you. But a lot of times those towns, they had a story, that you could run into. And he's saying here, because she used the word random, and he didn't counter back. He didn't say that, he didn't correct her. He said, yeah. And he went on to elaborate a little bit more. So it sounds like the same way that Speed Tree can randomly generate, different landscapes and things of that nature. This new technology that they have enables you to, just like Speed Tree would use that technology to populate planets. He's saying they're using their technology to populate planets with settlements and groups of people that you can encounter that will ask you for help for one reason or another.
We can see what looks like Earth's own solar system in the Starfield gameplay trailer. Will there be quests taking us back there and exploring how things have changed?
Yeah, actually, very early on in the main quest, we take you to our solar system, which in our lore is called the Old Neighborhood. Nice. And you'll be being sent there on a mission from Constellation to discover the mysteries of the artifacts. And you'll get in contact with the question of what happened to Earth, but also you'll go to Mars, and there's actually a settlement, one of the early settlements that humanity created after they left Earth. It's called Cydonia, and that's a whole city with its own problems and people to meet.
Okay, so that place, I remember seeing that place in the video. I thought that was some kind of factory or something. So that's a city. But anyway, he's saying that you're going to go back to Earth. Earth is going to play a role in you finding out what happened to the artifact. Now, I remember reading an article in Gamerant where they were saying that you're going to go back and see what happened to what happened to Earth's solar system. So I don't know if Gamerant got that wrong. They quoted him though. They quoted Shen as saying that actually our entire solar system apparently would have experienced something catastrophic that messed up the whole solar system. But we at least know, maybe Game Rank got that wrong. I don't know. But we do know that something happened to Earth. And so far, we do know that, yes, you will be going back to Earth. And also, he's saying that one of the settlements, the settlement, Cydonia, you're going to be going there. That place is populated by people who left Earth when whatever happened. They left Earth, went to Mars, and created the settlement Cydonia. So, and that's Cydonia, where I think that's Cydonia where they just showed the character walking. So the place that I thought was some sort of factory, but now we know it's not a factory, it's a city.
How will faction quest lines work compared to other BGS games? Can we join multiple factions and complete all of them like in Skyrim, or does joining one lock you out of certain others like in Fallout 4?
Yeah, so one of the early things we decided on was making sure that the main quest actually kind of gives you a little bit of a tour of the settled systems and all of the major players there, so that we can give you a taste of what they're going to be up to.
We're peacekeepers. We protect the people of the Free Star Collective.
We also discussed really early on, like, okay, do we make some of the factions be in conflict with each other? And we decided, we really want to make sure that you can play through all the faction lines independently of each other. And this time around, we were like, no, we really want the stories to be a little more personal, right? You're influencing the direction of where this faction is going to go. So say the politics of the Free Star Rangers, right? What's more important? Is it justice or industry, right? Where are you going to try to nudge them in this direction or another? So you don't necessarily end up as the head of every single faction of the game. But,
Okay, so there, he's saying that you'll have an opportunity to join all the factions. You'll have an opportunity to influence all of the factions. I guess that means that if you join some criminal faction, you'll have an opportunity to try to change that, to change their ways, to make them where they're not criminals. I imagine that if you say the wrong thing or if you go about it the wrong way when you're communicating to people, that will result. And if you played any Bethesda games, you know what's going to happen. Instead of them saying something positive, you say the wrong thing. You're probably going to, they're going to turn on you, you're going to pull their guns, and all of a sudden there's going to be a shootout. So, but you will have an opportunity to try. And because they're saying that the communication in the game is going to be a lot more complex than in their past games, I think that sometimes a lot of choices, the choices of things that you can say is going to sound like it might be the right response, but it may end up being the wrong response. So looks like that might put you in a pretty interesting situation. And also notice he said that you won't necessarily end up being the leader of all factions. That clearly means to me that you will have the opportunity to become the leader of some of the factions. And the way he's talking, like, your choices are going to impact this game. So I'm just wondering, like, if you end up the leader of various factions, I'm wondering if, like, maybe you can get these factions to actually cooperate with each other. Let's go on.
Obviously, all the major characters in every faction quest line will be reflecting on your choices, but, it can have far-reaching consequences for what that faction is, what it cares about.
What will the role of some of the companions be during quests?
The companions along the Constellation storyline, which is the main quest, they'll have a lot of opinions and points of view about what the decisions you'll be making along the main storyline. We've also added in several times where you can ask them to speak for you. So you might have a companion with you and you'll be challenged to, someone will tell you you can't get through here, and you can actually turn to your companion and say, hey, actually, could you handle this? And they'll...
Yeah, because I was saying in another video where if you're talking to somebody and it's the subject is a medical subject and one of your companions or the people on your team is a medical expert, will it be a situation where you would be smart as a player to turn to the medical expert on your team and tell them to converse with that person.
They'll actually speak on your behalf, and there could be consequences, good or bad, for what they have to say. And all the usual things you would expect from followers, right? They'll follow you into danger. You can trade equipment with them. And, they'll also be crewing your ship, which is new. So they'll be helping out on your ship as well.
Will NPCs react in different ways depending on how the player completes a quest?
Yeah, all the quest lines have major characters, right, that they'll reflect on the decisions you're making, and they'll have opinions about whether they're good or bad, and for a few of the storylines, and including the main quest, who ends up with you at the end, right? There are you'll be determining the fates sometimes, whether someone lives or dies, or whether someone's still in the faction or decides to leave the faction.
Okay, man, that's deep. So you're going to have to actually, these people aren't going to be like robots. They're going to have emotions, turns out. And, sometimes, you're going to have to play politics, it looks like, with just about everybody you encounter in here. And one of the things I read, which I didn't know, I don't think it came up in this interview. I didn't watch all of it. Matter of fact, we're at a point now I didn't see this part. But you can actually have relationships, like you can have a girlfriend or whatever, and I guess you can get married. I don't know. But yeah, it looks like when it comes to relationships with people, whether it be politicians, people in different factions, whether it be someone you're in a relationship with, someone that works on your team, like you're not just going to be able to, you need to be careful of your choices of how you're going to respond to them, because I imagine, I would not doubt if there is a scenario in here where you could tick off one of your teammates to the point where they actually betray you. That's going to be very interesting. I kind of have a feeling I'd be surprised if that were not the case. Let's go ahead and finish this out.
There's a lot of different things that'll happen.
Well, that's all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much, Will, for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Dude looks happy, man.
Thank you so much to Will for volunteering
All right, we'll
his time to answer our questions.
So hey, look guys, we're going to go ahead and end it right there. Look, if you had any questions about the game, I hope that it was covered in this video. If not, stay tuned. Of course, I'm looking at all these old interviews because I'm finding them very interesting. I'm finding out information that I didn't pay attention to before. I know sometimes these analytical videos can get a little boring, but hopefully if you had any questions about the game, hopefully it was answered in this video. And hey, look, if you liked it or if you thought it was of some value, give it a like and give it a share, because we all know that the YouTube algorithm can be a mother. And hey guys, until next time, stay safe.